Welcome to another weekend here on the platform. My name is Sam Omashe. Here are excerpts from my column.
The news came in while this column was done, but I squeezed my support of Kashim Shettima as the only vice presidential pick of the parties who can be president. He's a man of knowledge and accomplishment, of courage and integrity, of loyalty and energy, a trusted and trustworthy fellow, articulate, a breeder of men who has never succumbed to cant or bigotry. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has again shown he sees a good talent when he picks them, and he picks a good talent when he sees them. Those who have followed Shettima as governor, senator, and a warrior during the APC primary campaigns will only know that all those cries about Muslim ticket is a red herring away from the staunch beauty of a platform of doers of the Tinubu-Shettima double barrel.
Yeah, this was the man who was the center of the party.
Center of the party, never seemed to be serious. But he has a way.
He had his plan, yes.
If you took him at his face value, you undervalue him greatly. Because when he now got the PhD, the college, which is a real thing in Cambridge, the university hardly has anything to do with you. Yeah. The college now invited him, made him a tutor, and appointed him what is equivalent to a lecturer who would teach their own college students to make them do well in the university examination. Or if he liked, he could be a postdoctoral researcher. They allowed him that, gave him a good salary, made him a fellow, and he became one of the bosses in the place.
It was that good.
He was that good.
Then you also had some relationship with some professors. You had to. There are some that were racist. There are some that were not. You had to navigate who to get to you. It's interesting to see that even in a place like Cambridge, you had that kind of.
No, the racist man was not in Cambridge.
It was in London.
Yes.
Sorry, yes.
I had completed writing my thesis, and the question was who were going to be my external examiner, external examiners. So my what do you call him? My supervisor now called me and said, "Look, I'm going to send these things out now." I said, "Fine." I said, "Who are you going to send them to?" It's only one man actually. We have an internal examiner and one external. I said, "Who are you going to send it to?" He mentioned the name of an extremely right-wing, racist professor in London University. I was collapsing. I was really going down because I knew I was out. Because what I wrote had a lot of, in fact, one whole chapter declared racial discrimination to be a crime, an international crime.
And you had to prove it.
I had to prove it because my supervisor didn't quite agree. I had to spend 3 months establishing that. So I was collapsing.
You went to get information from different embassies.
All the embassies.
Yes.
And they cooperated.
Yes.
You know, those days there was no internet.
Yes.
So I was able to establish that. Now for my supervisor to say he's going to send it to that man, I knew that was the end. And he just laughed and said, "No, I'm just pulling your leg."
We have to jump forward again to the University of Ife, Unife at that time, now Obafemi Awolowo universities. And there were a lot of intrigues that you wrote about.
It was terrible.
There was the one about a teacher, a person who was your teacher,
was my teacher,
who you became the boss. You gave him all kinds of courtesies and respect, and even defended him to be made professor.
Because I was embarrassed,
and it was still undercutting you.
Yeah.
Talk to the fact that the university itself is not immune from the intrigues and chicaneries of the outside world. It was really remarkable what was going on. Even in your efforts to work as a member of council, that even with Oluwasomi as vice chancellor, you are still worried. What happened that the wife said that you were
happy now?
Are you happy now?
She said it
Why
to
did
them.
she say that?
In my manifesto for that election to council, I said quite a number of good things about it, because there are lots to say.
Yes.
But then I said, I now mentioned areas that required improvement. You see, that's where I went wrong.
And then he was removed because there was a plot.
Yes.
To remove him.
An internal
plot to remove him and bring in Aboyade.
Aboyade, yes.
Yes, and then the university became divided between those who were for Aboyade and those who were for Oluwasomi.
Yes.
And Aboyade, from your own account, was really vindictive. He didn't want you. He didn't want you to go on sabbatical. Was that the situation?
No, he didn't want me to be a professor.
A professor, yes. And in spite of the fact that you had recommendations from the top authorities, international law professors in both UK and the US. He took them aside.
Yes. And when I asked him why, because he invited me when he saw the uproar, because people came to know, he said, "Oh, he felt I wasn't sufficiently mature." Yes, that Aminu, Professor Aminu, the Minister of Education, Jibril Aminu, told him that he didn't think I was mature enough, that he had interviewed me before. So, in view of Aminu's advice, he thought I didn't deserve to be a professor, regardless of my academic
accomplishments.
Yes,
which was a really sad chapter in there.
Absolutely.
You also talked about the fact that assessors sometimes will send professors. Yes.
Their thesis.
Yes.
Thesis.
Their thesis.
Yes. Some of them were mischievous.
With the
process. If they didn't like you, they would send it to someone
who was already dead.
or who they thought would turn you down. In my own case, that was the intention. I mean, I was a young man, not yet 40. I was 38, 37. So you now send my assessment to men who have been professors for over 30 years.
And then they wrote this glowing thing about you.
Yes.
And then say,
old men, the doyens of the profession. So they sent it to those ones thinking that
they will say no.
They will say no.
And then they come up with, and you gave, you documented their letters.
Yes. And so it was a big shock. It was a big shock in the campus, because one of them, those on his side, that's the Abayade side, saw me and said, "Prof, Sagay, you made it. You made it. You got it." And then told me. Then there had been no interview then, because you do not reject an external assessor's report. You don't. Once you have the number, it is a binding rule that you must follow what they recommend.
Yes.
But in my own case, Abayade did what he did, and really created a lot of bitterness in the system.
So you leave Ife and you go to establish the law faculty at University of Benin.
Yes.
And things were going fine, especially with with Beki, Professor Beki, Adamu Beki, who was Vice Chancellor, who gave you all he could to make sure you did what you wanted to do, and you established a thriving faculty. Then the crisis came with the appointment of Alele Williams, which ordinary people would say, "You are a Shekiri, she is a Shekiri," and so everything should just be harmony.
Yes.
But when she was appointed the Ashakiri group went there and they went to do party and do parakwan. You were not there. And you said you were not that kind of thing. Yeah. Was that the beginning of trouble?
I don't really know. I am told, apart from that she had a brief from Aminu. Aminu really was the one who appointed her.
Yeah.
That the ASU group in Uniben was too vocal, and she should go there and bring it down. That was the brief I understand she was given. And we had what they call ASU professors. We were not elected for any position in ASU, in any position. But we were behind them.
Yes.
It was a group led by Professor Jackson Omene. Who were called ASU professors. Because we supported the ASU.
Including as well as the late Professor
Festus. He was the chairman.
Was the chairman.
Yeah, it was his group who were supporting. So I understand that she was sent there to go and dismantle us and send all of us scattering all over the place. And so that university can be brought under the thumb of the government.
Reading the story, it is actually the central defining chapter in this book, in that you go into details about the shenanigans and the activities, and you document everything with letters, with names, and with statements, even court judgments, and all of that. And you get the sense that Professor Adelaide Williams was paranoid. And there was one incident in which she walks walks to your seat, and then says, "Professor Sagay, come with me." And then she hands you over to the police.
To the police, in our own office.
In our own office. And then the police see nothing wrong. It's just like Pilate. I see nothing wrong with this person. So go home. And then she's still angry. And then she's fingering you into everything that goes wrong and thinks that you are the one. Tell me what really was going on in your family mind at that time.
It's a very interesting thing. You know, when things like that are happening to you, you feel as if you are seeing a film, not yourself. So that was the state of mind I was in. I couldn't, my mind rejected it. And I was seeing myself in a film as if I was looking at myself. But I didn't feel I was the one actually involved. That's the way it was too extraordinary. And one went through it in that state of mind. But with some, for example, they went after my wife and I told her not to resist them because she was resisting. That I had enough sense to do that, and we left the place.
They threw her inside the bedroom, and then they started helping themselves with food and
so many things. Not just food.
Jewelry, money, wristwatches,
all the important things of value in the house were taken. They carried them away, but selected those things in the vehicle that they used. So that then by the time they finish in one room, they would then change the lock, and they did that. And so I told her, don't resist them. Come out, let them do whatever they want to do. And we ourselves will find our way out of whatever problem.
Because you were not even home when it happened.
No, I was in the court pursuing the case against them. When I got a call, I rushed home and found this chaotic, tragic scene going on. So,
well, eventually, you went to court.
Yes.
All of you went to court when you were dismissed from the university.
Yes.
It took years, about 6 years.
Yes.
And you found disappointments along the way, and you found generosity as well.
Yes.
Alao Akabashoro stands himself with Femi Falana
and
Gani Fawehinmi.
Yes.
They stood out as as angels at that time.
Yes.
Allow Akabashonu Chambers with Femi Falana as point man.
Yes.
They prosecuted the case free of charge for
Free of
6
charge.
years.
And Akabashon was paying us a salary
Of 500 naira,
Naira,
half of your
which
university
was half the salary of a professor
in the university.
Throughout the period we were in trouble. He was representing us free,
yeah.
and at the same time paying us salaries for us to survive.
And you had to beg him
We
to
had to
stop.
beg him to stop.
Yes.
When we
you were
became
okay.
stable,
Yeah.
we sent the message to, because he used to send Femi to Benin. We said, Femi, tell him we're okay now, we can stand on our feet. He refused. He said, no, I must continue to support you until we put pressure. We had to put pressure on him. Really, we're okay now. Thank God for what you did for us, but now we can stand on our feet. Before he reluctantly stopped.
There was one law office in Warri who offered to take you in.
Yes.
But I think develop cold feet.
Yes.
They didn't want to be seen as subversive. So they were giving you the runaround.
Yes.
And then you went through some other offices who were saying, I think you should start your own.
Yes.
You're too big
now.
Too big for us. You're too big for us, and so on. Was that always the fact that they felt you're too big, or they're also afraid?
At least one of them could not have been afraid, because he opposed government. Or he was always on the opposite side of the unprogressive government. He was on the progressive side all the time. I don't want to mention he's a really big man. So his own was genuine.
Yes. And then Ganifa Emi, you almost started with Ganifa Emi until you just at the same time you got an offer.
Yes, I got chambers and
everything free. So you just had to.
So I had to do that. I choose that. But Gani said, you can come and start today. At that time, though, I had already got something that I was.
It's also important to note that all of these crises at Uniben happened in the context of a military regime.
Yes.
So there was really it was a time of impunity.
Yes.
Of sanctioned impunity.
Yes.
In government.
But I want to emphasize something.
Yeah.
You know, we won all the cases.
All the cases, yes.
Under a military regime.
Under regime, yes.
The people like Esho, Oputa, Obaseki, Nnamani, and Anyagolu, the greatest judges Nigeria ever had, were sitting in that apex court then. They didn't care whether there was a military government or not. They gave judgments as it ought to be. And the most important lesson from that is that all the military governments obeyed their judgments. So,
and civilians don't do this.
No, civilians don't do. The civilians are afraid of government, but the civilians don't obey judgments as much as the military used to do in that era when we had strong and upright judges.
Interesting. I also want to go back in time again to the time of the Nigerian 1960s, when the Nigerian, there's pre-Nigerian crisis, when the NCNC and the Action Group, both of them could have come into an alliance and defeated the MPC at that time. But the NCNC decided to make an alliance with the MPC. Were you aware at that time that Awolowo actually told Zik that he was ready to serve under him? Was it common knowledge at that time?
Yes. At least at the level of strong party members. Because as the chairman of the Action Group students in the University of Ife,
yes.
I was a member of the National Executive Council. So I used to attend meetings headed by Alhaji Dauda Adegbenro as the acting president of the party. So all these things were known to us, were discussed.
So in a sense, some people believe that Zik was a coward or Zik was a collaborator.
To that extent,
yes,
he was. He consistently, throughout his life, did not fulfill agreements with Awolowo about forming an alliance. Consistently, even post 1970,
The PPA.
yes, 1983.
1983.
Yes, when they were supposed to have, the four of them were
supposed to make alliance. Yeah. UPN,
yes.
NPP,
Yes.
what's it called? Is it ANPP? Not ANPP. What they call them? The one by
that Maverick
that man
from Borno.
That man from Borno.
Yes. I've forgotten his name.
Yes. So they were meeting one day.
Yes.
Awolowo saw Zik to the airport.
Yes.
And then everybody saw what was going on. Then Zik arrived at Enugu airport and he said that Awolowo was showing contemptuous that there was one language you used. That was how the alliance collapsed.
Yes, that's true.
Was it, could you trace it to also the Western region palaver in the 1950s when Zik could not make it as premier of Western region? Was it
1951?
52 years, that period? Would you think that was the grain that was running through Zik, that he couldn't trust the Yorubas?
It could be. But what I've always said to myself, it would have been really strange if Zik had wanted to be, ended up being Prime Minister of Western region, which was 100% Yoruba. Well, okay, there was Midwest
and some sprinkling of
it would have been very odd. So I felt he should have even felt relieved that he didn't have to do it. Would have looked like a colonial imposition.
But also interesting is the fact that if he had gone into alliance with AG at that time, it would have been prime minister.
It would have, yes. It was
with
offered.
powers.
It was offered.
It was offered.
Awolowo
offered to work under him.
Prime ministership, and Awolowo would be Minister of Finance. That was the agreement.
Was he afraid of Awolowo even as Minister of Finance?
I don't understand.
That he decided to go and take a position as a president who's just ceremonial and no powers.
Yes. I think it was
it's still one of the mysteries of Nigerian history.
Yes, a big mistake. A big mistake.
Sure, this is an interesting book. You read it, it's a history of Nigeria. It's also personal history. But I won't end this story because I just remembered one incident, and that's the romance part of your life, where you started giving lessons on love.
Yes.
Here you said, look, there was somebody you thought you could marry. She used you and had a lover outside the country.
That is right.
There was another one that was particularly toxic, and your dad warned you against.
No, I was a hopeless romantic at that age.
Yes,
a completely hopeless romantic, and what has stabilized me was marriage.
Yes,
and I identified my problem. Why are you not married at 35?
Yes,
it made no sense. So when I met the first lady I really loved and liked, not in love.
Yes,
I was not in love with her. That's crazy to be in love with anybody, because you can't control yourself.
You have to be practical.
Yes, I just loved her, and we got married. And since then, the fever has left my body.
Okay.
And I've been calm and
ever
cool.
since.
I'm very, very rational in my relationship with women.
Yes. The book is titled All Will Be Well, and you can see that we have ended the story on that very happy note. Thank you very much, sir, for being on this show.
It's a pleasure.
Whatever or whoever I pick, I am pickled. Whatever way I take, they lay in wait. I am waylaid when I fly. No angelic skies, but I must go. When they say glory, I see glory.
Thank you for being on this show. You can get excerpts of my column at www.samomashe.com. And until next time, be good.